Thank you for having me. I am always scared when I'm mic'd up. I'm loud enough on a good day. You put amplification behind that and it can become quite frightening. I was excited when Philip called me and told me they were doing Byte the Future again, and he said, I'd like you to speak. And I said, sweet, what's the topic? And he says, AI, is it the best or the beast? And I was like, that's a great topic, let me call you back. So I waited a couple of days and I thought about it and I called him back and I was like, so there's no such thing as AI and it's the beast. And he's like, you're in, come talk about it. And by that, you know, I think it's really important to frame that there really isn't AI out in the commercial space. If AI exists, it's probably being built by nation states or really, really deep research labs that are funded by people we don't want to know about. So I'm going to skip any real AI or nation state sort of stuff, and I'm going to talk about the commercial marketplace and the fraud that's being perpetrated on us in the name of AI, because none of it is in fact intelligent. I think Felix really summed it up very, very well. It does not reason. It does not think. All it does is learn. All of the AIs out there are almost like the digital equivalent of a mynah bird that will repeat back to you what you have said or what it thinks you want to hear. These things are not thinking. When I think about AI and really start, remembering, I think about HAL, from 2001. I think about Wintermute from Neuromancer, and there have been enough Terminator references that we all know Skynet, right? These were thinking entities that were acting on their own accord. And what's being built in the marketplace is not doing this, right? It's not acting on its own accord. It's acting for a purpose. It's trying to provide a service. It's not thinking about what you want. It's just responding to a lot of business rules very, very quickly because there is the compute to power to do that. And so when the market talks about AI, they're really saying, I have a machine learning application that is bundled with NLP, OCR, speech to text, or some other things, and it's been productized into this thing that you might think of as vaguely human, but is not. And so I think that's the first myth, and where people go astray with this entire thing. They think they're building AI, and they're not. They're building products that are machine learning in nature that are trying to do a service, and it's really getting in the way. But these things are beasts, right? And absolutely, the one thing that they all have in common is that they are ravenous. They are ravenous and they consume infinite amounts of information. And that's really a key point of what I'm going to talk about, because these things, while they are not AI, they are machine learning applications that have to be fed, and they have huge, huge appetites. You think about your own life. So you went to school for 18, 20 years, and you were pumped full of information during that time. That's how you make all of your decisions, along with reason and sort of inference, which these machine learning applications can't do. But what current AI or machine learning applications try to do is take the amount of information that you maybe had in 20, 30, 40 years and scrunch it into minutes or seconds of data processing to try and emulate your behavior. And so that's the genesis of all of these things, and they have to be fed. They have to constantly be fed. They need new sources of information, because as people change, as we change, if you don't constantly refresh those learnings, they're not going to be able to adapt to it, and it will fall behind and no longer be useful. And so I'm out in the market a lot talking to different companies, and I talk to a lot of startups. And startups come to me with their hashtag totally sweet AI idea. And they describe it to me breathlessly. They are so excited about how it is going to revolutionize the world. Humanity is going to be better for their chatbot. No, it's not. But they believe, and that's okay, because belief is absolutely a wonderful thing, and they are going to revolutionize the world. And the first thing that I ask them, and I say, great, sweet, you want to build an AI, what's your data strategy? And they say, what? I said, what's your data strategy? And they're like, no, I'm building an AI. And I'm like, yes, I know. What is your data strategy? And this is where it starts to come unglued for them, because they didn't think about that. They got consumed with the AI and this notion that I'm going to build this really smart thing and it's going to figure out for itself. It's not. And so data strategy is the first thing that is going to differentiate any AI application, any modern AI application from any of the others. The second is how you actually productize it, right? Because it's not an AI, it's a product. And AI is going to be this all-thinking computer that's going to give us the answer 42 at the end, and then we're going to have to remember what the question was. These things are products that are designed to generate revenue or provide business value, and they're going to need data as a result. And I always caution people to start thinking about that at the very beginning, because once you develop the AI, it's too late. You then have spent a significant amount of money to realize that you're then going to have to go buy a lot of data to try and get it to learn. And the first part of a data strategy is dealing with the new alchemy and calling a data scientist. Now, data scientists, do we have any in here? So I need to know if I run for the door after I say this. Data scientists are the new charlatans and frauds in the marketplace. You know, frankly, one, there aren't data science programs. Two, if there were, they were 20 years old right now, and you know, they haven't actually shipped anything. So anyone who has a base mathematics background has looked at R sideways and can write 2 lines of Python, rub it together, and start a fire is now calling themselves a data scientist. And they're charging hundreds of thousands of dollars or pounds, depending on it. And so you're entrusting the core of your business, this AI, to this person who maybe has never shipped anything, and they just want to ship one thing so that they can call themselves a chief data scientist. And then go make 500,000 pounds, because that chief adds, you know, a couple of generations of 6 figures. And so this is really it. And the sad truth about all of this, and I'm not deriding the entire profession, because there are a lot of really, really smart people out there who know math and who understand science, but 80% of a data scientist's time is spent cleaning data. Now, somebody want to do the math and think about 80% of 300,000 pounds and wonder if that's really worth cleaning out a spreadsheet. The answer is probably not, and these are things that the startups really need to think about when they're going down this path. Who is going to be programming your algorithms? How much does it cost? What percentage of your budget is it? And have they ever shipped anything before? Because if they haven't, they are building their resume on your dime. And it's R&D, and there's no guarantee when anything is going to come out the end. The second is really about data quality. Does anybody recognize my friend Tay, the chatbot? So a couple years back, Microsoft put out a chatbot called Tay, and it was really good. Yeah, it's going to be a great example of Microsoft's foray into AI with this chatbot that was going to talk to people about Taylor Swift and all of this wonderful pop music. They had a fantastic data strategy. The people at Microsoft, absolutely brilliant. They said, what better data source than the entire internet? Yeah, that worked out well. And so they put a Twitter chatbot here, and they opened the fire hose of Twitter straight at it. And within 24 hours, they turned a chatbot that loved Taylor Swift into one of the most racist, homophobic, messed up robots that has ever existed in all of eternity. They turned it off very, very quickly. It is not on anymore. And that really goes to data quality. You know, the line goes that bodies are built in the kitchen, not in the gym. And the same thing is with the AI. One is you have to have enough data. You have to have significant quantities of data for these things to learn, but it has to be high quality data. It has to be the right data. If you're trying to change behaviors or have this provide a service, it needs to be able to respond to the data that it's fed, and the data it's fed needs to be representative of what the market is actually doing. In this case, it was, right? You know, Twitter is generally, you know, a 1 million to 1 useful post to a bunch of garbage, and what they fed their chatbot, they got back in spades. Now, Microsoft has not yet recovered from this. We don't really hear about them in the AI space. Azure has machine learning as a service, which is adorable. But this is a problem with failing fast. And really, what are you feeding it? And it's a warning. This is why data strategy around AI is so important. What are you going to put into that thing, and what are you expecting to get out of it? And with that in mind, the second part is really all of that data and accumulating all of that data. And there are sort of two stories or anecdotes that I'll mention about this. I have a customer I've worked for who builds the reference sensors in wearable devices, so sports watches, Apple Watch, things like that. I don't think they actually do the Apple sensors because their sensors are advanced enough that they can read through tattoos, which Apple cannot do. So they build this reference data, but their entire data strategy is predicated on getting people to come in and work out with their reference data on. So think about that. Their ability to do machine learning is predicated on getting people to walk in the door, take a $25 gift certificate to jog on a treadmill and lift weights. So their entire market, their entire application, all of their sensor is beholden to who will actually come into their office, the population of people near their office, their ability to fund the gift cards to get people in the office. And these are constraints that companies have to go through. So they've got an idea, they need data. How are you going to go acquire it? And the second is fantastic, and I have to just giggle because there's already been a lot of back and forth about data lakes. Last year at Byte the Future, data lakes were maligned a significant part. But a couple of years back when I was at the Telegraph, I was lucky enough to talk to the senior folks at Shop Direct. And I sadly forget the name of the gentleman I was speaking to. He's one of their senior technologists. And he said something I remember to this very day. He says, "We have an unapologetic data strategy." I said, "Awesome. What does that mean?" And he said, "We'll store everything, anything. I will store any log file. I will store any analytics. We will store anything and everything we can in any format we can possibly store it in." And this is the mentality, right? Store it all and let the engineers sort it out. And that's the thing, especially in machine learning and AI, you cannot have too much data, right? I agree that data lakes are not particularly awesome, right? Structured data that is purposeful is fantastic, but think about it from a business model. What's easier to get started? Just capturing anything and everything that you can so that you have too much information. And then you have to figure out which of it is good. That is a better problem to solve than, oh crap, I've got a good algorithm that I just paid somebody $500,000 to write, I've got nothing to feed it, right? You want to make sure that you have all of the data. And the thing about these machine learning applications and AI in general is this. The technology is completely democratized. Nobody's AI is special. Right? It's all based on machine learning and a number of other technologies, and all of the machine learning is open sourced. TensorFlow, Torch, all open source. Most of the math that goes into building the machine learning models is public and out there. And so the machine learning itself is not special. These are technologies that are freely available. If you wanted to, 20 minutes and an internet connection, you can have a full machine learning processing set up instantly. And then it gets compounded even more than that because all of the cloud providers have made it that much more easier. Machine learning as a service is now a thing. You can just plug your credit card into AWS, Google Cloud, or Microsoft and have a full suite of starter tools for machine learning. So again, that technology itself is not a differentiation. Everybody has access to it. What they don't have access to is the kinds of data that they need to actually build their application. And I had mentioned this sort of previously, and it holds very true. And it's a problem in technology, and I'm a CTO, and I fall into this, where we fall in love with our technology. It's very much like Pygmalion, who fell in love with his statue. The people in this space are falling in love with their AI, or they're falling in love with how smart their algorithm is, or how fast it learns. That's great. It's still a product. right? It's not an AI. It's not just something that's sit there and supposed to think. It has to do something commercial. If it doesn't do anything commercial, it's just an R&D project. And so it has to have purpose. And keeping a very, very sort of mindful sense that you are building a product is chief among this. Again, it's going to be the big differentiator in whether or not you are successful in the marketplace. If it is poorly productized, nobody is going to use it. If it is a bad idea that's poorly productized, Tay, for example, your reputation is going to get damaged because you have failed fast in a particularly spectacular fashion. And so with that in mind, there are three things that go into productization that it's essential to work with the data scientists and the engineers on to keep first and foremost in their mind as they, as they build these things. All products have three things that they have to have. It has to be usable, right? You have to be able to use it. Everybody's gotten on board a plane and walked past the cockpit, looked left and go, wow, that's a lot of switches. Everybody's also seen a moped or a scooter, right? It's one throttle, two brakes. It's really easy to operate. And that's why more people drive scooters than they ply planes. And it's essential with our products. It has to be easy to use. If it is cumbersome, if the barrier to entry is difficult, people won't adopt it. They won't use it. The second is it has to be useful. It actually has to do something of value. It has to provide some sort of value to a customer for that commercial transaction to happen. You think about Tay, and I know I'm beating up that poor little chat bot, but it provides no value other than entertainment, seeing what you can make it say. But if you think about something like Alexa or Google Assistant, it has to be useful, right? I need a new pair of socks. Alexa, order me 5 more pairs of black socks. Boom, done. It provided me a function rather than me going to Amazon, clicking, typing, and saying 5 socks, click, 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 buy. It just goes and does it. It provides value. And the final thing is desirable. And those of us who've been around a little while, back in the early 2000s, the late 90s, desirable meant pretty. It meant pretty. And the focus was on graphical beauty and really making things attractive. And luckily, UX has shifted us away from that, and desirability is now about needing it in our lives. Again, this product that we create, this AI product that is going to be created, we have to have a reason to want it. It actually has to be attractive to us, make our lives more complete, right? Alexa saved me 5 minutes when I was buying socks the other day. That's a reason I would possibly want it into our life. It can't just be technology for technology's sake. That's just not enough anymore, right? Again, that comes into an R&D product and not actually the creation of value. I was talking with one of my VPs of technology sort of a couple of months ago, and we were debating about innovation and the difference between innovation and invention. And innovation produces value. Invention does not. Invention is the mere creation of a thing, right? Innovation is creating value where value didn't exist. Look at the Segway, right? A Segway is just invention. It's two-wheel, self-balancing transport that was supposed to revolutionize travel. All it revolutionized was walking tours of major metropolitan cities, right? Not exactly a big business value. It didn't create a lot of value. It was pure invention. It was technology for technology's sake. It was cool, it was rad, but ultimately it revolutionized nothing. And so with that in mind, everybody who comes to me and they're like, I've got an AI, and I'm like, yeah, I don't care. I really don't. It's awesome. You have a machine learning application. It's going to get really smart if you feed it. What are you feeding it? Do you have a data strategy? Have you thought about what you need to create this thing? You have an idea, and ideas are easy. If you go through a design thinking session, you get a bunch of Post-it notes, you put them up on the wall, you have 100 ideas. Getting ideas into fruition and making them into very real things that will generate money is very, very different. And that means thinking ahead about what you need. Do I have enough data? Is it of high enough quality? I talk to data scientists all the time, like real deal guys who actually work for DARPA, and they do research. They charge people $50,000, $100,000, and then go, yeah, I like your problem. Come back when you have 10 times the amount of data, and then we'll be able to solve it. And so doing that research up front and doing that thinking up front about, do I have the data? Is it sufficient? And the second is remembering that you're building a product. This is going to separate the winners from the losers. I think there was a really interesting question earlier about, are we in for an AI bust? I actually have a running bet with some of my staff about whether or not we're going to see the next .com crash be an AI crash or a blockchain crash. Both of those technologies are siphoning billions of dollars out of every economy without showing a lot of value yet. So there is a very, very real possibility that some of these won't come to fruition because they're built by scientists and mathematicians and not people who are focusing on building real products that are going to provide commercial value to the people who are going to use them. And that's it.